Alright, so today I've decided to talk about Team Derp. Team Derp is a story about three idiots who have found their ways to come together. Where do I begin? Well, I guess first off it's important to mention that I've traveled back and forth to Italy many times, and it has been as exhausting as it sounds. And when I get home, there was one church we went to, and that was basically, it became home because we never had like one house ever or one place. The church was the only consistent place I have ever gone back to. So, being the outcast that I am, this was probably 5th grade when this all kind of began. Before we had a label, we didn't have a label yet. We eventually did label ourselves Team Derp for real. That's what we labeled ourselves as. But before that, we were the kind of guys who didn't fit in anywhere. A group of outcasts, as you would say. Everyone kind of had their stereotype. One of them had very strict parents, and that's before mine kind of became really strict. And then the other, he was just different. And for me, I constantly moved away, and people didn't like the new kid. I guess they don't like goodbyes or whatever, but whatever the reason, because I've moved around, I never really fit in anywhere. We all kind of magnetized towards each other and became a group. There was another kid who was a member of the group for just 2 or 3 years before decided to leave. So I go back to Italy, come back, fast forward. We had become comfortable with ourselves. You know, for once, we were able to get together, be ourselves, and not have judgment. Or, you know, we'd make fun of each other and judge each other, but in a friendly way, you know what I mean? So, with our combined forces, there was a dodgeball tournament, and the trend then was like derp, like that was a word that was like flying across the meme world of the internet, and we were like, that's the fit for us. We're Team Derp. So that's kind of how it first got thrown around. We didn't stick with that name for a little while until later, but the other friend I was talking about, he was growing up. He found out, he figured he had become more mature and that we were too immature to be with. And I say he was okay with me basically giving me the choice to split the group and kind of be his friend or them. And of course, I picked them. For once, I was able to be comfortable to be myself and have fun. Like, it was just fun environment. And over time, because we were outcasts, our church had started growing. I wouldn't say started growing, but new kids started coming in. And because we were outcasts, we kind of accepted other outsiders and made them feel welcome to our church. And so our group began to grow, and eventually we had to split it in half. It was so big. Too many people to keep in a circle, one topic. We're ADD enough as it is, so we didn't say it, it just kind of gradually we split the group. They helped me get through some of the hardest parts of my life. And what I mean by that, I had lost a girl at the time, and they made me laugh at any time I was with them, even if I didn't want to. So we have this camaraderie, and we went to church camp together 4 years in a row. We had a blast. And the whole point of the group was to be okay with yourself. To be okay having fun. It was okay to have fun. Now, we were the stereotypes. I cringe thinking about it now, but I still don't regret it, if that makes sense. We were the stereotypical group that were the loud, obnoxious ones, and just always having fun. And eventually, ironically, because we were outcasts and comfortable with ourselves, we became popular and known by everyone around the church, and lots of interactions would happen. With this group, I was able to finally feel comfortable in my skin and kind of figure out a little bit of who I was. One day, we couldn't figure out who would be the leader of this group because we kept having tournaments, and we finally had decided, like church events, and stuck with that name, and we finally decided we need a leader. So who should it be? And since it was a group based on derpiness, we decided the most idiotic one of the group should be leader. So naturally, I became leader. We argued about it for weeks, actually, 2 or 3 weeks. We argued and argued and argued about who did the dumbest thing or who deserved to take over. And eventually, it just kind of got put to rest, and I just sort of became alpha, started making choices, and I found myself in this leadership position. We kind of joked about it, but now, like, for real, I was actually making decisions for the group, deciding where to go, what we were doing, when we were doing it, outside of church, and who we would let into our group. There were sometimes we kind of had meetings about people they didn't like, and I was like, we got to give them a chance. Everybody deserves a chance. And because of that, I hope that we made an impact and gave them something good to look back on. Looking back on it, it was one of the most fun groups I've ever been a part of. Just being loud, fun, and just to paint a picture, we were the group every week. We would sit together under the we were in the front, but there's a balcony, and we would sit under it, and the one with the strict parents wouldn't let him have a phone, or a proper iPhone at the time, and I think this is back when I had the iPhone 5? Yes, the iPhone 5. And that was like the latest thing. And so I let him play on it during church, and Garrett played games during church, and I just kind of doodled and was able to kind of take a break from being so energetic the whole time. We even stood next to each other, admittedly, and just sang stupidly to the song, sang some of the songs in Western accents, and one of them we accidentally mixed up the lyrics. I don't want to say what we replaced a word with, but it was an honest slip up, honest mistake, and then we just laughed, and then we made it, and then we started doing it on purpose. But that's what Team Derp means to me. Every time I hear it, I think of that camaraderie. Now, eventually, of course, things had to die, and I kind of felt this coming. We were about to leave our church and switch, and the last year of camp, that was the last time we were going to be together. And somehow I knew it. I just had this gut feeling. So I made it the funnest time possible, and I tried to get individual time with everybody, which is hard to do when you become popular. I hate to complain about it. Now, I say popular. I was popular at my church. School was a completely different story, and that was another reason I really loved this group, was because looking back on it, they were my other world. They were my escape to school and life. They were that world in between, because I've always had the life of 2 lives or 3 lives even, and they've all sucked. And school was okay at the time, being a freshman. I've made many mistakes. More stories for other days. And sophomore year got a little better, but that's when I met a girl and kind of started focusing on her. But eventually groups had to die. The last year of camp, that was going to be it. That was it for us. After that, I mean, we tried keeping in touch, or I did. One of them got a job. His parents became a little less strict. The other also got a job, but he got a girlfriend too, and really focused on her. I think he's still. I don't think he has any guy friends as of like that I know of right now. I think he hangs out with his girlfriend all the time. The one with the other job, he legitimately has become busy. I went to his house because I started taking piano, and his mom teaches piano, and this was like a year and a half later after the sort of breakup of the group, and I learned he really is busy, and he's got a lot on his plate. The other, I went and tried to say hi to him at his work. He worked at a bakery in a mall, and he kind of blew me off, and it was like, it really hurt. And I realized that it was over, and that it was something I had to let go. And eventually later on, I would find a new group, and I didn't realize I was kind of already in it at the time, but again, another story for another day. I actually have some pictures of when I first got back. Here's one. You can see them, and they kind of look down because they don't know how to take pictures. And then here's another. This was go-karting. And this other one, this whole thing inspired the team in my comic books that I've introduced in my second issue, which will be coming out in a month or two. Me and one of them and I, how would you say that? It doesn't matter. We love Pitch Perfect, and when Pitch Perfect 2 came out, actually, we went and watched that at the theater together, opening night. And that was a good little memory. Now, at the time I had my hair dyed blonde and was wearing glasses similar to his, and so apparently later I find out this old couple looked at us and said that we looked like a gay couple, and I would have been really offended. I think that's why he didn't tell me, or he thought I heard it, but it was something we kind of laughed about later. I hope you enjoyed. This is one of my favorite things to look back on. So I hope that it was just enjoyable to hear. I'll catch you next week for story time with Ethan. Bye.
Are you getting this on video? He is a mental institution.